These are the 12 weirdest signs that you possibly could have a nutrient deficiency. The very first interesting one, that if you have ever had those bumps that are on the upper part of your arm and they're kind of white and there's just several of them, well, there could be a reason of why you have them. And what happens when someone has these little white bumps on their skin, especially in the upper arm area? It could mean that you have a vitamin A deficiency or even omega-3 deficiency or other essential fatty acids. And that's because part of the skin require lots of different healthy fats as far as also vitamin A. And if you're deficient in it, you'll start seeing these things start creeping up. So if you've ever had that issue and wondered why that is an issue, maybe you might have an omega-3 or also vitamin A deficiency that you need to take care of. The second one, this is pretty interesting, is that if you've ever experienced just always excessively craving sour foods and it just happens randomly, it could possibly mean that you have a deficiency in vitamin C. Vitamin C is very important for our health, and it's because your body is craving all these different sour foods that typically have ascorbic acid, vitamin C, that your body needs. And that's why it's going to crave sour foods, so your body gets it in. The third weird sign is, have you had issues with where your legs are a little jittery, or you have that restless leg syndrome that might be keeping you up at night? Well, there could be a very big reason that you might be someone that can have a magnesium deficiency or even an iron deficiency that they've seen in studies. And I've seen this a lot with even my own patients. Whenever they complain that they're getting poor quality sleep and I ask them, do you have restless leg syndrome? Is that an issue? And a lot of times they will tell me, yeah, okay, I do. And we'll see that they sometimes are deficient in magnesium or also iron. And when I supplement that for them, that gets rid of their restless leg syndrome. Now, it isn't always the case, but it definitely is worthwhile looking into. The fourth weird sign is if you're someone that is constantly always have to using chapstick and you're always hydrating yourself, but you still get cracked lips and you've gone to your doctor about it. You're like, what's going on here? Why am I constantly getting cracked lips, even though I'm doing everything possible, keeping myself hydrated, but still an issue? Well, it is possible that you can have a vitamin B2 deficiency, and this can happen, and this is one of the warning signs. But also along with vitamin B2 deficiency, you might also see a swelling of the tongue that goes along with the cracked lips as well. The fifth weird sign that I see that is pretty common, more than you would think, is when you have tingling in hands and feet, and you've gone to your doctor about it and they still haven't been able to figure out what the issue is. It can be a vitamin B12 deficiency. You'll see that a lot when someone is severely vitamin B12 deficient. They'll have tingling sensation like pins and needles in their hands and feet. The sixth weird sign is, have you had issues where whenever you get hit and barely even hit, maybe just slap, or you actually bumped on the edge of something and you just get this ugly bruise? Like you're someone that just easily bruises? Well, if that's the case, it's very possible that you might have a vitamin K deficiency. And that's because vitamin K is very important for clotting. And someone who easily bruises can have a vitamin K deficiency, but also even vitamin C, because vitamin C also helps with wound repairing and healing. And so that could also be the case. Now, the seventh one, you probably asked yourself this a lot, is why do I always get canker sores? Why is this happening and no one else seems to have this issue? Well, there could be several different reasons that this could be happening, and there could be a couple different vitamin deficiencies that you should look out for. One being an iron deficiency. People who have an iron deficiency are just going to be more prone to having canker sores. It could also be a folate deficiency or even a vitamin B12 deficiency. So all three of those can be a possibility of why you're constantly getting canker sores in your body. So therefore, you should definitely look into that if you're wondering. So what about you? Have you got any of these kind of weird signs and symptoms? Leave that in the comments and let us know. The eighth weird sign, and I see this a lot and I get asked this about a lot, is having brittled nails or misshaped nails where they're kind of curved and indented there. And there's a couple reasons this can be happening, especially if you're dealing with this. Is a big one is biotin. Now, biotin is also known as vitamin B7. It is very important for your health of your hair, skin, and nails. And so if you're deficient in this, you're going to start seeing brittle nails. A lot of times when you'll see the indentation or the misshape of the nails where it's kind of like a spoon shape, that is probably because you're anemic. It's probably because you're going to be iron deficient, and that's something you definitely should get checked out right away if you haven't had that checked. Now, ninth one might be pretty obvious, but I think it's an interesting one to just kind of note here is if you ever excessively crave for salty foods, well, there's probably a reason why that's happening. It's probably because you're deficient in either sodium or potassium or both. So I find that this can happen when someone might be doing some fasting or intermittent fasting for a long duration, and they're drinking lots of water. And so what they're doing is they're depleting a lot of their electrolytes, especially sodium, potassium, and then they'll start craving a lot of salty foods. So you just gotta be careful whenever you are doing something like fasting, or if you're noticing this, it's probably because you need to really help balance out your electrolytes more efficiently. Now, number 10 is a very interesting one. If you have ever or are currently dealing with premature gray hair and it's not a genetic reason and you've asked your doctors about it and they can't really figure out why because all your other family members have great luscious hair that's not gray, well, there could be a deficiency going on here. And the main one would be copper, because copper does produce melanin for the hair to give that luscious color, but also could be other deficiencies such as like folate and vitamin B12 that also help with the process of hair, skin, and nails. If you're dealing with premature graying of your hair, well, you might want to look in to see if you have a copper or vitamin B12 or folate deficiency. Number 11, a very big one, and this is a very common problem, is dealing with dandruff. So if you've ever dealt with dandruff and your doctors haven't figured out the reason being, it's also good to look at some deficiencies that can cause dandruff to be more excessive. And some of the big ones would be a zinc deficiency or a vitamin B6 deficiency. Also, probably the biggest one is omega-3. Omega-3 fatty acids are really important for oil and just keeping good skin, good balance for your hair. So if you're deficient on that, you're gonna start having some dry scalp skin and dealing with some dandruff. And number 12, I left the weirdest one for the last, is if you have ever started craving ice randomly. Just always craving for it. And I've even seen in some cases where you feel like you want to eat dirt. I've seen this happen, and usually what that means is you are deficient in iron. And so if you're always craving for it, well, definitely check to see if you're anemic. But along with iron deficiency, which I think is probably one of the most common deficiencies that I see, especially with the patients I work with that have like ADHD or other mental health issues, is that there's a lot of different warning signs that you need to look out for to see if you do have an iron deficiency. So you should watch this video next, where I talk about the warning signs, all the warning signs that you should check out for when it comes to iron deficiency. So check out this video next.